Today's looking like a good day to hex the patriarchy. So, in all seriousness, I really don't condone hexing unless in extreme circumstances. But who am I to judge? So here we are, we've got a Cancer new moon at 24 degrees Cancer and 56 minutes. And we are opposite Pluto. So we're going to be talking about that. Let's first talk about the chart. So this is cast for July 17th, 2023. The chart is cast for Washington, D.C., as that is the capital of the nation where I live. And you're welcome to adjust the chart and do the same for where you live. That's just the standard for how to set up these lunation charts. We're not necessarily looking at how this is going to go down, relative to our nation or the leaders in the nation, just looking at themes, but that is the appropriate way to set up the chart. So yeah, we've got the Cancer new moon, as I said, going down here at 2:31 p.m. Eastern time. Adjust for your time zone. So on one hand, we've got this beautiful new moon because the moon is in her domicile. Moon loves being in Cancer. This is where the moon is at home. So on one hand of this new moon, we have this like enriching, nourishing, nurturing kind of quality. This might be a really good time to amp up your self-care. New moons do tend to be a little bit more lower energy in terms of the energy available to us to expend out in the world. We tend to be a little bit more protective of our energy under new moons, especially in the protective sign of Cancer. This Cancer new moon invites us to really lean into those introspective new moon tendencies that we get each and every month around the new moon. So this is the time to carve out some quiet time. This is going to be a quieter Monday. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of other stuff going on outside of this new moon. Maybe for you personally, this feels like a quieter start to the week. Maybe the weekend felt really quiet as well, kind of leading into this Cancer new moon. So yeah, this is the time to really not pile too much on your plate and to really water yourself. Water yourself where, it nourishes you. Do you need sleep? Do you need a quality meal? Do you need some special best friend time? Do you need to just spend the day cuddling with your cat or your baby, or I don't know, your lover? Whatever you need that feels like this is going to nourish my soul and help me to kind of restore my energy. Those would be good practices around the Cancer new moon. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room that I already mentioned, because we've got this square, or I'm sorry, there is a square. I do need to go get that. I need to bring it up on the page. But yeah, we do have this opposition with Pluto here. So why don't I actually pull up this chart? I'm going to get, if you're not familiar with how to do solar fire, here's a little sneak. I'm going to add Eris in. I usually don't put Eris in with my client work because she's always kind of in the same spot, but I need you all to see where Eris is. So Eris is squaring this new moon in Cancer opposite Pluto. Okay, so we're going to break this down. So the opposition to Pluto, there is something kind of like intense, something kind of serious. There's something very emotional. There's a deeply emotional component to this Cancer new moon here. Cancer new moons that are opposite Pluto or Cancer or any kind of lunation involving Pluto, there adds like this extra oomph of emotional intensity here. There can be like this really kind of deep inward draw. There can be like an uprooting quality, sort of a volcanic, sort of top blowing eruptive quality, an emotional release. This can also be really profound for deepening like an intimate connection. Pluto is all or nothing. So this can be a really powerful time to really open up to someone in your life. Pluto really sort of can bring out other sides that we haven't seen of someone before, and it can show us their truth, the good, the bad, the ugly. You know what I mean? Like someone in an emotionally messy state can make them more human, can make them more relatable, can make them more lovable even. There's something about finding power in our emotions or power in vulnerability here. Because Cancer is like, an emotional well here. And, you know, there's something powerful about owning that. There's something powerful about owning our messiness, owning our realness, and power in emotions because they're real. There's power in owning that. And not letting the emotion overpower you, by giving it a voice, by giving it a name, by expressing it, by getting it out. So yeah, this lunation really has a lot of that energy to it. Now let's talk about Eris. Okay, so we've got bad bitch Eris, as I like to call her, squaring the lunation. And why is this also important? Because Eris is going to be stationing retrograde. Let's go ahead and animate this here. So Eris is also going to be stationed. If you watch this S, it's going to change to the color red. So Eris is stationing retrograde here on July 22nd. If you've been following along with me, if you've been following along with astrology, then you'll also know that Venus also stations retrograde on this day. So Eris is stationing retrograde, and Venus is also stationing retrograde on this day. So if you watched my Venus retrograde video, you'll notice that I've made some comparisons to PMS. When Venus is retrograde, she's got PMS. We all got a little bit of PMS. Well, we've got this like dark goddess theme coming up here, and it's all coming out of this new moon opposite Pluto, like that darkness of the moon that kind of speaks to that like period of like that potency of coming out of like like the dark goddess. Like she's messy and she's potent, she's powerful, and she's wise, and she's doesn't feel like she has to be polished and put together for anyone. If she's got a bone to pick, if there's injustice, if there's been wrongdoing or mistreatment, she's going to say something about it. And so this lunation really carries that energy, especially as we move into this Venus retrograde. Another point that is worth showing here is, let's see here, get Black Moon Lilith. So Venus is stationing retrograde. It's not a super tight orb. I mean, it depends on which Lilith you're using, because I've seen in ephemerides like true Lilith being at 28 degrees Leo. I think I just updated mine. So I think my Lilith in my program is like the mean Lilith, like not mean as in like bitch, but mean as in like average. So yeah, we've got Black Moon Lilith averaging out at 21 Leo, but I think true Lilith, the lunar apogee, is 28 Leo. So Venus is actually stationing retrograde in a conjunction with Black Moon Lilith, just, the same day that Eris stations retrograde. Now, who's Eris? We haven't really spelled that out in a distinctive way on my channel yet, I don't think. But I've done a lot of work with Eris. I've done a lot of research into Eris. And Eris is the goddess of discord. She's known as the goddess of discord. But who is Eris really? Eris was left out. There was a wedding on Mount Olympus, and everyone was invited except Eris. Eris is the sister of Mars. So she's got an edge to her. She was the goddess of discord. They didn't want her at this pretty wedding where everything was, set up in this perfect picturesque way. But Eris said, I want to have a seat at the table. I want to be included. So we see Eris show up a lot with equality, racial equality, gender equality, marriage equality. We see Eris show up in a lot of ways where there's vast differences of equality, and Eris shows up, she stirs the pot, and she says, I need a place at this table, or I'm just going to flip it and make my own. So Eris is known for starting the Trojan War. She threw an apple on the table. It said, "To the fairest." And Aphrodite, Athena, and Hera all fought over it. And one thing led to another. And Aphrodite promised Paris Helen, the marriage of Helen, the goddess of the most beautiful woman. She was like the queen of Troy, Helen of Troy, but she was already married. So there was just this whole battle, the epic Trojan War, which is kind of like Venus being the goddess of love and war, you know, this Trojan War, this giant war that was fought over love, like the hand of this maiden. So yeah, there's just like this very like rebellious, sort of angry sort of energy, and it may have to do with injustice, you know, with this layer of Pluto that can sometimes speak to oppression, especially in Capricorn. You know, Pluto in Capricorn has brought up a lot of discussion about systemic oppression. And Eris, you know, Me Too, and the Me Too movement, saying, I want a seat at that table. I want to be respected. I want to have the same opportunities. We've seen Eris show up a lot in recent years with her conjunction with Uranus, with her square with Pluto, these mega cultural shifting conversations around equality and justice. So yeah, I suspect that, as I mentioned in our Cancer season overview, that there's a lot of cozy elements of Cancer season, but this is where it all goes down, because this new moon that we have is going to set the tone for the next 2 weeks. So we have this Plutonian flavor, this uprooting flavor, this, you know, death to the old order, Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn, this urgency around the systemic problem. You know, that's how it's going to be showing up on the collective. I just know it, because it's been a big theme, and we see all these things kind of pointing to it. So we're going to see like another chapter of that, another sort of, you know, do I use the word uprising? Do I use the word movement? Do I use the word upset? Something of that nature. Generally, when we see Venus go retrograde, we do see some sort of social unrest. So yeah, I think there's a lot of evidence here that's sort of pointing to that. So yeah, and again, going back to Venus and Leo, you know, the right to be oneself, the right to love who we want to, the right to just be authentic and to not dim our shine, you know, Venus and Leo. But yeah, going back to like this Cancer new moon, yeah, I mean, we've got some other beautiful elements to it too. We've got Uranus, which kind of like adds some energy, even though it's a quieter, introspective, emotionally connected new moon. There's Uranus, which adds a little bit of energy. It kind of like gives some sprinkles some caffeine on it. And then we've got the trine to Neptune. So there is something about unity there. There's something about opening the heart. There's, again, like that emotional release. Your dreams could be very intense around this time with the trine to Neptune. And there's just something about, yeah, like unity, coming together, compassion, dreams, you know, sleeping dreams and waking dreams. So yeah, I know that was a lot of layers there, but I just wanted to kind of plug that this is, you know, even though we've got a nice, happy moon in Cancer, the rest of the chart looks a little crunchy. It looks a little irritable. It looks a little like messy, but hopefully in a feel good, I needed to get that out kind of way. And yes, we'll have to wait and see how things are going to kind of play out on the world stage. But for right now, that was your Cancer new moon astrology shot of the day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. Timing with Transits, my 11-week mentorship in Predictive Technique begins on September 21st. We're covering transits, we're covering perfections. We've got a blend of live and pre-recorded tutorials and ongoing support throughout the program. So if you want more information on that or you want to snag that early bird rate, head to my website, katherineurban.com.